Today, I'm breaking down exactly how I mixed quad-tracked rhythm guitars for a song I'm mixing for the band Cytokine inside of Reaper. I'll make sure to link the band below in the description so you can check them out and show them some love. Let's dive in. So you just heard the final mixed guitars in context. Now let's rewind and build that sound from the ground up. Now I'll show you how I went about processing the individual tracks of the main tone. So the first thing I was looking to do is get rid of any unnecessary low end on the guitar, as well as getting rid of any high end fizz that really doesn't add anything to the actual guitar tone. So the way I did that was just with a simple high pass filter at about 100 Hertz and then a low pass filter at 8K. So I'll show you what it sounds like first with that EQ off and then with it on. So yeah, really just tightens it up a little bit. Then from there, I have it going into a multi-band compressor. Here I'm using the Low Control by Black Salt Audio, and I have it acting on everything under 250 Hertz. And this is just trying to tame the plume of the guitar chugs. So again, I'll show you it with it off and then turned on. So first with it off. So you can hear again on those chugs how it just kind of tightens up that low end. Now let me play that section again for you with the EQ and multiband compression off and then on, so you could really see how the two are working together to tighten up the low end. So first we'll do it with the processing off. So you can hear with those two moves, it keeps the low end of the guitar solid so the bass can sit confidently without the guitar smearing it. Then from there, I have the two main tone guitar tracks going into a main tone guitar bus. And what I'm doing on this is just EQing out any of those harsh, whistly frequencies that all guitars have. It's usually in the 2 to 4K range, but it could go as high as 6, 7K. And I'll show you what it sounds like with those cuts off and then turn it on. So you could really hear the difference there, where when I had it off, there's almost like a constant whistle or almost like static, like a shh sound to guitars. And when I engage that EQ, you hear that all go away, and you could actually hear more of the detail and note and pick attack of the actual guitars. And the way I go about finding those frequencies is you just make a really narrow cue and you just kind of sweep across the guitars until you hear something that doesn't sound good. So I'll do that with one of the frequencies here just to kind of show you. So you kind of hear right about 2.1K, no matter what he's playing on guitar, you just hear this constant shh. That's usually what you'll hone in on for what you should be ducking out. So then I just kind of bring that down until I don't hear that annoying frequency anymore. Now you need to be careful, because if you go searching, you could pretty much find unlimited frequencies that you want to duck out on the guitar. And if you do too much, you'll kill all the life and attack out of the guitar. So I try to limit myself to anywhere from 3 to 6 notches at most. Again, we're looking to get rid of those annoying whistles, but we're not looking to kill our tone. Now for the supplemental tone, I'm doing the exact same process. So on the individual tracks, same EQ move, same exact multiband compression. The difference on the supplemental tracks are what I'm doing on the supplemental tone bus. Same principle, but because it's a different amp and a different cab, there's going to be different frequencies that we're going to want to cut. So I'll show you what that tone sounds like without this EQ on and then with it on. So here's it with it off. Now I feel like with this tone especially, you could really hear the difference this EQ makes. When it's off, there's just that constant whoosh. And then when I put the EQ on, you can hear a lot more detail of the guitars. Another nice thing about doing this is when you're cutting all these frequencies that you don't want, you could then go in and boost the overall sound of the guitar a little bit. So here I have it going, I think it's 0.7 dB here, and on the main tone I had it at 0.5 because I did less cuts on that. By removing the frequencies that you don't want to hear, you're then able to raise the overall volume of the guitar, which will bring out the frequencies you do want to hear, like the pick attack and the note definition. So then I take the main guitar bus and the supplemental tone bus, and I feed them into a main rhythm guitar bus. And the only thing I'm doing here is I have an SSL channel strip, and I'm just using the compressor on here. And how I have that set is I have a slow attack, fast release, and a 4:1 ratio, and I'm just looking to do about 3 dB of gain reduction when all 4 guitars are playing at the same time. So I'll show you it with the compressor off and then with it turned on. Now this compression gives us 2 wins. The first one is it kind of glues the 2 tones together into one massive wall of sound. Now it's subtle, but when I had it off, you could almost hear a disconnect between the 2 tones. They sounded somewhat separate, but when you have just that little bit of compression, it just kind of glues it all together and makes it sound like one cohesive sound. The other thing is it acts like a bit of a smart volume or smart automation, where when only one track is playing, which there are a few sections of this song where there's just one guitar track playing, there's no compression. So by not having any compression on those parts, it actually raises the volume of that single track, almost acting like an automatic volume fader. This is cool because it kind of gives your guitar tracks a bit more life and movement. Let me show you both of those things I was talking about in context. So first, let's focus on what it does for the tones in terms of gluing them together. So I'll play that same section again with the compression off and then turn on, and just really focus in on how the tone goes from almost 2 separate tones to one massive wall of sound. Now I'm going to play a section of the song that has just one guitar track in it. So you can see how with the compression going on, that when it gets to one guitar track, you won't see any more compression, which in turn is going to make that single guitar track sound louder. So it's subtle, but just that little bit there is just giving some movement to the guitars overall and helping that single guitar track really pop out when it needs to. So then the last thing I do is I take all the guitars in the song and put that into one bus. So we've been focusing on the 4 rhythm guitar tracks here, but everything in red is a guitar. So you can see there's some leads and additional guitar layering. I take all the guitar tracks and that gets fed into one overall guitar bus. So let me show you what I do on that. The first thing I have on my guitar bus is a Pultec style EQ, and I have it boosting and cutting at the same frequency, creating that classic Pultec trick where, because of the different cues of the boost and the cut, it creates a bit of a dip in the low mids. And it works really well on the guitars on cleaning up some of that low-end mud and letting the bass guitar breathe. And then I'm also boosting at about 16K. So I know we had cut down to 8K before and that got rid of the fizz. And then I find that just doing a boost high up like this beyond where we cut, it seems to add a bit of sparkle and detail to the guitars without adding any of that harsh fizz. So let me show you what it sounds like with that off and on. And I'll do it in the context of the whole song. What you really notice with that is how it cleans up the low mids on the guitars. Specifically, you could kind of hear how it allows the bass guitar to come through a bit more when that's engaged. It's all from cleaning out that low mid mud. Then from there, I have it going into a stereo widening plugin. I'm using the JST side widener, and I'm doing this very, very subtly. It's just at 14%. I have it on the mid-range pusher because guitars are a mid-range instrument. And all I'm looking to do is just get a little bit more width and separation from the guitars. It's very, very, very subtle, but it just kind of gives a little bit more life to the guitar. So I'll play that same section again with it off and then back on.
No time wasn't wasted. That's what makes it the desire to hold you closer. The further we go.
Again, super, super subtle. Just trying to get a little bit more life out of the guitars. And then the last thing on my guitar chain is using the FabFilter Pro MB. And I have this side chained to the snare drum. And I have it set at the fundamental frequency of the snare. So in this case, it's about 194 hertz. So every time now that the snare drum hits, it's going to cut that frequency in the guitars about 2.5, almost 3 dB. And it's just going to allow the weight of the snare drum to kind of cut through that much more. So I'll play it with it off and then turn it back on.
No time wasn't wasted. That's what makes it the desire to hold you closer. The further we go.
So you should notice when that's on that weight and that punch of that snare just comes through that much more. So to kind of wrap things up, let's listen to one section of the song with the guitars fully mixed, and then I'll turn off all that processing so we can compare what we've done. So we went from raw quad tracks to a cohesive, wide, punchy wall sound. There's controlled lows, clear low mids, no ice pick highs, and room for the snare to slam. Huge thanks to Cytokine for letting me use their song. Link to the band in the description below. If this helps, please like, subscribe, and drop a comment with your favorite amp cab combo for quad tracking. And if you're still having trouble recording and dialing in your guitar tones, you should watch my earlier video on how to record guitars at home. You can check it out right over here.